The opening ceremony for this summer's Tokyo Olympics is just 99 days away. I know you're counting. The Games open July 23rd. CBC is Canada's official Olympic network, and here's a look at our fantastic Olympic broadcast team. I'm going to give you a drum roll. Here they are. We've got CBC Olympic broadcast veterans Scott Russell and Andy Petrillo. You can see them in the center. Two-time Olympic silver medalist and three-time world champion diver Alexandre Despatie. And there are also some familiar faces from CBC News. The Nationals co-host Andrew Chang, he's right there on the left. And of course, my fantastic News Network colleague, Heather Hiscox. And by the way, my next guest will also join our CBC team for the Tokyo Games, Olympian and former world champion, Perdita Felicien. Our chase team has reached her in Ajax, Ontario. Perdita, I'm wondering if you've got some butterflies. I know you probably didn't when you were an Olympic athlete, but being part of our CBC Olympic broadcast team in Tokyo, what's happening in your tummy?
Oh, this is the top of the pyramid for broadcasting. Hello, I'm at the top.
You are.
Amazing. I'm thrilled.
You know what? I think you're going to do a great job. But what do you see as one of the hurdles? Let me speak your language. One of the hurdles you might have to overcome, considering you are a hurdling champion.
You know what it is? It's not putting too much of my emotions into how athletes react. Because I remember one time I was, a fairly new broadcaster, 7 years now, but an athlete had a really bad time at the Pan Ams in 2015, and they were supposed to win a medal and they didn't, and they blew past me in the mix zone. So Hannah, I was livid. I was like, how dare you? So I'm gonna have to calm myself down a little bit.
But emotion is what these Olympics are all about, because whatever time it is, and it might be 1 o'clock in the morning for us in Ontario watching the Olympic Games from Tokyo. I'll be jumping up on the bed if Canada wins, but it wins a gold medal or a silver or a bronze. But that's really what these games are all about. I'm wondering, without the fans there, though, does that lessen the emotion?
So Hannah, I got to be honest, and you're asking me a really hard question. I have to be frank. I think anecdotally, our athletes will feel the love of Canadians. They will feel our power and our hopes for them and our support. But I got to tell you about being in an Olympic stadium with 80,000 people or even 60,000 people. There's electricity, there's emotion, there's an energy there that the athletes will not have. It can boost you, it can overwhelm you, but it is another character that these Olympics will no longer have. And I do wonder about how they'll react to it, especially the veteran athletes who know what it's about when you step into an arena and suddenly there's no one there.
Yeah. For first-time Olympians, and you've been to the Olympics many times, and I guess, even after you retired, I'm sure there was still some part of you that wanted to be, in the Olympic Games. But for the first-timers, what's the best advice you can give them for dealing with this Games during a pandemic?
So Hannah, I think this is even for the veterans as well. This will be like no Olympics that anyone has ever seen or faced. I'm going into my sixth one as an athlete/broadcaster.
Yep.
I think they have to just keep it together. There are going to be outbreaks. There are going to be athletes in countries that fall off and decide they're not going to come. You're going to be asked to leave within 48 hours of not competing. There's just so much unknown, and I think you just have to keep your cool and know that you're doing your best. I've talked to some of my, fellow Olympians just about their prep, and so they're stressed. They're feeling the pressure. They just don't know how to call it.
We can understand that stress. Even as a fan, I'm feeling stressed for our Canadian athletes. But I want to ask you particularly, Perdita, about the women, because while there are many Canadian athletes to watch, we've got to keep an eye on the women, because women won most of Canada's medals in 2016, projected to do the same again this time. So who will you be watching closely, Perdita?
Two of my favorites, I've covered them at the World Championships, at the Commonwealth Games. It's our beach volleyball duo of Melissa Jimenez-Paredes and Sarah Pavin. They are the reigning world champions in beach volleyball. They have a chance of clinching Olympic gold. Erica Wiebe, she's defending in women's wrestling. But this is what I'll say about Olympic predictions. We already know my situation. We're not even going there, right? There's no such thing as favorites. But this year is a really hard year to predict. We haven't seen a lot of athletes compete. These test events are being canceled left, right, and center. Who's to say who will win? right? It's not necessarily about your physical prowess. It's really who's been able to just keep it together under these tremendously stressful and turbulent times.
Yeah. Final question for you. Speaking of these stressful and turbulent times, Perdita, I'm sure you watch CBC News Network. You know that we've spoken with people who have lost their jobs during this pandemic, others whose businesses have closed and they've had to, really try hard in different ways to make ends meet. There are students who are missing out on what could be experiences that they will never have again. So there's a lot of turbulence and a lot of emotion happening during this pandemic. So what's your message to Canadians that perhaps these Olympic Games will give us during these really challenging times?
Yeah, I think it doesn't have to be perfect, right? I think that the lesson we all need to take is our athletes are going to be showing up. They're going to be showing up in their best, with their best mental states, their best game plans, and just doing what they can. And honestly, we've all struggled this year, Suhana. Let's just all raise our hands and be honest. But I think it is really about letting yourself drop some balls. Make sure the balls are rubber, not glass. Make sure, there are things that you can bounce back from. But I really, truly think these games, they're going to be difficult to watch for some, I'll be honest, because they're not going to be what we're used to. But the point is, I think it will still have the opportunity to unite us all.
Great to talk to you, and I will be watching you on air and looking forward to it. You take care, okay?
Take care, Suhana. Thank you.
Sports broadcaster and Olympic world champion, Perdita Felicien. So we'll be covering a record 33 sports, 5 of them new ones, around the clock, a total of 340 medal events across 42 different competition venues. Let's break that down, how CBC's extensive round-the-clock games coverage will look. And this is for you, so you can keep in touch with our athletes. Andy Petrillo kicks it all off with Olympic Games morning. That's from 6 a.m. to noon Eastern, featuring, in case you missed it, updates and medal talk and athlete interviews. Certainly don't want to miss all of that. Perdita and Andrew Chang then take over with Tokyo Today, and that airs from noon to 6 p.m. Eastern, providing you with the major storylines of the day with athlete profiles and previews of upcoming events. And this will be Scott Russell's. Goodness, I love this man. He's just like the epitome of sports for me. It will be his 15th Olympics, and he'll bring his expertise and his insight to Olympic Games prime time. That's from 7 p.m. to midnight Eastern. The nightly staple will focus on medal moments across key sports, including swimming and track and field, and lots of others I know you'll be interested in. Then from midnight to 6 a.m. Eastern, Heather Hiscox will join two-time Olympic silver medalist Alexandre Despatie on Olympic Games overnight. The Late Show will focus on a range of sports, including diving, tennis, gymnastics, trampoline, cycling, soccer, and team sport round-robin play. So really, we've got you covered. 24 hours a day right here on CBC television, on CBC Gem, and the CBC Olympic Games website and app. So you can watch the games at home, you can cheer for our athletes, you can be on the go and cheer for our athletes. I suppose the message is, you know what, let's all lift our spirits, because these athletes, they're training, they're working so hard, and we'll be watching them and feeling their joy.